All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down a story that is just a masterclass in how a conflict can escalate. I mean, we're talking about a simple request that completely spirals out of control into a full-blown crisis. This isn't just some ancient story. It's a playbook, really, on how high-stakes negotiations can go so wrong.
And boom, it all kicks off with this single line. This is not a suggestion, not a negotiation tactic. It's presented as a divine command delivered by these two guys, Moses and Aaron, to pretty much the most powerful man on the planet at the time. You can just feel the tension, right? The stage is set for an absolutely epic showdown.
So here's how we're going to walk through it. We'll start with the divine command itself, then the actual face-to-face with Pharaoh. After that, we'll see his incredibly harsh response, how that causes the people to turn on their own leaders, and finally, we'll look at the leader's own moment of despair. It's quite a ride.
Okay, first up, that divine command. Now, this is really important to get. Moses and Aaron, they're not just winging it, they're not acting on their own. They see themselves as messengers, ambassadors, delivering a direct order from a much higher authority, the God of the very people Pharaoh has enslaved.
So, what are they actually asking for? When you look at it, it sounds almost reasonable, right? A short 3-day trip into the wilderness for a religious festival. That's it. They're not marching in and demanding, "Let my people go for good." Not yet. They're starting small with what seems like a totally manageable request for some time off for a religious holiday.
Well, that reasonable request, it leads straight to this major confrontation. This is where you see two totally different worlds, two completely opposing power structures just smash right into each other in the middle of the royal court.
And this right here, this comparison, it just gets right to the heart of the whole problem. On one side, you've got Moses and Aaron saying, "The Lord God of Israel sent us." And on the other, you have Pharaoh's response. And you have to understand, when he asks, "Who is the Lord?" he's not genuinely curious. It's pure dismissal. It's a power play. He's basically saying, "In my kingdom, there's no authority higher than me. I've never heard of this Lord, so why should I care?"
And this quote just nails Pharaoh's point of view, doesn't it? He's not thinking about religion or divine commands at all. He's thinking about economics. He sees two guys trying to stir up his labor force, giving them an excuse to be lazy. For him, this is about productivity, and his response is simple: stop distracting my workers and get back to your jobs.
But see, he doesn't just say no and leave it at that. Oh no. He escalates things, big time. Pharaoh goes from a simple rejection to a calculated, really cruel policy that's designed to do more than just punish them. It's designed to break them.
And his new decree is honestly a work of genius in its cruelty. Look at this. First, no more straw for making bricks. That's a key ingredient, gone. Second, he tells them, "Fine, you need straw? Go find it yourselves." And then, the real kicker, the third step. Oh, and by the way, you still have to make the exact same number of bricks every single day. He's literally setting them up for failure. It's an impossible task.
And here's the why. He spells it out right here. This isn't just about punishment. It's about psychological warfare. The goal is to bury them in so much work, to make them so miserable and exhausted that they don't have the time or the energy to listen to these vain words from Moses and Aaron. It's a brilliant, cynical strategy. Make their lives so much worse that they stop blaming you, the oppressor, and start blaming the guys who tried to give them hope.
And guess what? Pharaoh's plan works. It works perfectly. The effect of this decree is immediate and it is devastating. And it leads to this really tragic, but maybe predictable, next phase of the crisis. The people start to turn on their own. I mean, just try to imagine this scene. An entire nation of people, scattered everywhere, desperately scrambling to gather leftover stubble just to try and meet this impossible deadline. What started as a simple request for a religious festival has turned into a daily, frantic nightmare.
And through all this, the Egyptian taskmasters are relentless. There's no sympathy, no, "Hey, let's cut you some slack because this is impossible." Nope. The message is simple and brutal. Fulfill your works, make the quota, no excuses.
So what happens when they can't meet these impossible quotas? Well, someone has to pay the price. And it's not the Egyptians. It's the Israelite foremen, the guys who are put in charge of the work crews. The punishment just flows right down the chain of command, and the people's own community leaders are the ones getting beaten for the failure. So in this act of total desperation, these beaten foremen go straight to the top. They appeal directly to Pharaoh. And their argument is incredibly gutsy. They don't just beg. They actually point the finger back at Pharaoh's system, saying, hey, the fault is with your own people for making this impossible.
And Pharaoh's response to this logical, desperate plea, he just completely blows it off. He doubles down on his original accusation. He basically just repeats himself. You're idle. You're lazy. He completely refuses to acknowledge the injustice. In his mind, all this suffering is just an elaborate excuse to get out of doing a hard day's work.
This complete and utter dismissal from Pharaoh, well, it's the final straw. And it brings us to the emotional climax of this entire chapter. With nowhere else to turn, and their suffering now worse than ever, the blame finds a new target, the two men who started this whole thing. So, when the four men leave Pharaoh's court, they find Moses and Aaron, and they let them have it. And what they say is just chilling. Think about it from their perspective. Their lives were hard, sure, but now they are unbearable. These two men promised them liberation, but all they've delivered is more pain. They've essentially, in their words, handed Pharaoh a sword to kill them with, a perfect excuse to crush them.
Wow, I mean, can you imagine hearing that as a leader? It's a completely shattering moment. And Moses, crushed by this, takes their accusation and he turns it right back around into a question for God. Lord, why? Why have you let this happen to these people? Why on earth did you send me? It's just this raw, anguished cry of doubt and frustration.
And this is the brutal lesson, isn't it? Moses did exactly what he was told. He spoke in God's name, he delivered the message, and the mission was a catastrophic failure. Not only did it fail, it actively made things worse. This is the moment where he learns that having a divine mission doesn't mean it's going to be easy or successful or that people won't get hurt. This initial terrible failure is the very thing that's going to forge the leader he needs to become.
And that's really the tough question this chapter leaves us wrestling with, right? When you're on a mission you believe in, but it's causing more suffering, where does your responsibility as a leader end and your faith have to kick in? It's a deep look into a leadership crisis, showing how a leader is supposed to hold on to that vision when their very first move backfires so spectacularly, hurting the exact people they're trying to help. It's just a powerful look at the real cost of change and the brutal reality of what happens when you challenge power.